culture is hurtling down a slippery slope. And that slope is shockingly steep and changing our society at such a rapid pace that the struggles of teens in the 80s and 90s would be unrecognizable to teens today. And the struggles of teens today, the things that teens right now are dealing with, are things that did not even exist when their parents were growing up. For these reasons, Abigail Shrier's Irreversible Damage is an eye-opening, must-read book for parents of tween and teenage girls. Our youth have been sexualized with pornography and sexual education from disturbingly young ages for the last decade. Porn is now widely accessible, and sex education is becoming increasingly graphic, with more and more discussions on how to have sex in a variety of ways, and not simply on how to prevent pregnancies and STDs. And all of this together has led to a very weird and unexpected side effect. Teens today are having less sex than maybe any generation before in all of human history. Teens in the 80s and 90s, it turns out, may have been doing it the most. And teens today, they are watching sex, they are taking countless hours in instruction on how to do it, on their sexual orientations, and it turns out that is making them more sexless than ever. And while this might sound like a good thing to some, that teenagers are engaging in sex far less often, it's creating a disturbing trend among our teen girls. A transgender craze. And parents who never had an iPhone or Android device and would never have boasted in their school over their sexual preferences as a youth, we need to catch up with what's going on. And Shrier, in her book, Irreversible Damage, presents some shocking statistics to the reader that will help hopefully wake us up to our culture today. A decade ago, and when I'm talking about a decade ago, I'm not talking about the 90s, I'm talking about the year 2011. Only 10 years ago, less than 1 in 10,000 girls experienced gender dysphoria. Less than 1 in 10,000 girls thought they were a boy. This condition where someone feels like they are the wrong gender. Today, it's gone from 1 in 10,000 a decade ago to 2 in 100, or 1 in 50, with girls making up the majority of those experiencing gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is surging at rates of 1,000% in the United States and 4,000% in Great Britain. In the year 2016, females in America accounted for 46% of sexual reassignment surgeries. 1 year later, in 2017, females accounted for 70% of sexual reassignment surgeries, and the number of teenage girls with gender dysphoria only continues to rise. In Irreversible Damage, Shrier shows the dangers of sexual reassignment surgeries for young women, for teens, along with the dangers of taking testosterone for teenage girls as well. The risks are shocking and rarely given to a girl who is seeking to transition from her natural gender, her God-given one, to the one that she should not have. Shrier also shows the strategies of influencers, schools, and psychiatrists to cause girls to question their genders and to actually push them into the trans community for acceptance instead of tackling the countless other struggles that these girls may be dealing with. Shrier thankfully provides parents with a list of 7 steps that we can take in order to help our daughters not walk down the dangerous path of transgenderism and self-mutilation. And I gotta say, the couple of pages where she gives those warnings, they are worth the price of purchasing the book in and of themselves. They are worth the time that you would spend reading the entire book and going into the weeds of the danger and the depravity of this situation in America today. Although I need to confess that taking these steps might not be so easy for parents. I say that because the first step, What may be the greatest psychological danger to our teen girls, what might be most likely leading them to contemplate suicide, self-harm, and deforming their bodies in an attempt to change their sex, is the smartphone combined with social media. The two together may be the most destructive thing in our home for our daughters. And yet it is almost universal how teen girls have smartphones in their possession. This is a crucial book for parents, but I want to warn you, Irreversible Damage is not an easy read. What teens are doing to themselves, what physicians are doing to them, what the trans community is pushing them toward, you could only describe all of this behavior as barbaric. This is pre-Christian self-mutilation in order to gain cultural acceptance. This is modern day foot binding or female circumcision, and it is not enjoyable to read about what is happening to girls in America today. And parents, you need to be aware of this issue, because being a teen girl today is not like being a teen girl in the 90s. It's crazy for me to say this, but the stuff Abigail Shrier talks about in this book, the process of going through the change from being a girl to being kind of a boy, that process, I would rather my teen daughter become pregnant with her boyfriend in the back of his car at the age of 17 than for her to be sucked into the trans community that will tell her to take testosterone and to bind her breasts. And as a note for the majority of my readers, since I do Christian book reviews primarily, Abigail Shrier is not an evangelical Christian. She is not coming to this from a biblical Christian worldview, but I think in some way that makes what she is writing about all the more compelling. Things that are going on today are terrible. And parents, we need to know what our girls are facing. So I say that Irreversible Damage is a must read for parents. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be enjoyable, but you need to know what your daughters are facing so you can help them navigate these dangerous paths they have to walk during their adolescent days and help them enter womanhood as those who are confident, brave, strong, and resting in the person that God has made them to be. If you enjoyed this review and you want to stay engaged in the world of Christian literature, I'd encourage you to subscribe to the Rev Reads YouTube channel.